70% of all altcoins are closer to their all-time high, the all-time low, than they are to all-time high. And the 30%, I would like to see what that 30% is actually. So I think
why do you think people haven't been flocking to Bitcoin in the same way that they've been flocking to gold in like uncertain times?
Because during uncertain times, you need as much certainty as you can. You know what I mean? And you don't know whether the world will end in a decade or less than a decade. And if you want to bet on money on things that will probably do well, I'll put Bitcoin there too. But I think the old heads, the rich heads, don't probably see crypto as a safe haven. Honestly, 10 years, I'll slap it on a BTC. Honestly, I wouldn't. Yeah.
All right.
Nah. You know what it is?
Let me change it slightly. Let's say we're in a bull market, or we're looking very bullish.
Okay. Alright, cool. So if we're feeling very bullish, I'll keep 50% of BTC. I'll pull 25% of that $10,000 into Ethereum, and I'll pull 1K into Stellar Lumens.
Yeah, and based on the fact that, scammers are scamming and they need Monero to exit their scams, I reckon Monero for the win.
The content presented in this podcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. It should not be considered as financial advice, and listeners are encouraged to conduct their own research or consult with a qualified professional before making any investment decisions.
Crypto flip.
In this week's episode, we'll be exploring the effects of the war in Iran and what that... In this week's episode, we'll be exploring the effects of the war in Iran and how that impacts you as a Bitcoin and crypto trader or investor. We'll also be exploring the 3 portfolio allocation models and see which one suits you. And as we all know, the bear market officially is here. So, with that being said, how do you manage a bear market, and what are the best strategies that work so that, you can make life-changing money? We'll be discussing all of that and more in this week's episode. But if you're new here, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening on audio platforms, don't forget to leave a review because that helps us create more episodes. And if it's your first time listening, we're 3 investors and traders that manage our own portfolio, and we'd like to discuss what's happening in the news related to crypto and Bitcoin so that you can make more money alongside us. So with that being said, let's get straight into it. So recently, the non-war president, Donald Trump, decided to start a war with Iran. Now, we're not really going to get into, the moral aspects of it, even though it's a deplorable thing. But we want to know what tangible effects that has on your portfolio. Because if we really look at it, we've seen wars before when it comes to crypto. We've seen, the Russia-Ukraine. I think that's probably been the major one since the inception of crypto and Bitcoin specifically. And theoretically, people fly to vehicles to park their money when things seem unstable. But that hasn't necessarily always been the case. So with the war in Iran, how do you think it's going to affect Bitcoin and crypto prices overall?
Yeah, I think we touched on it last week, and I think it's just a follow-up now for how it's looking versus the original hypothesis. The original hypothesis was, as soon as the war takes place, and I don't know, moving the moral parts out of it, as soon as war kicks off, things like crypto have an immediate dip. So crypto, gold, your risk-off assets, they have an immediate dip. And we can see that because we saw Bitcoin drop all the way down. And then it gets to a point where people start to realize, actually, this is the only way I can move money around. And this is probably the best thing I can use to move money from one country to another. And then we start to see the price bump up a little. And I feel like that's where we are right now. So price now is like dancing around the 70s, up from like a low 60s last week. So things are looking up in the short term. But I feel like the whole caveat to all of this is the market is trending downwards this year. So whether we have a little pump now, whether we go up to 80, I want to say none of that really matters because the market we're going down, bro. Like it's a downward trend for this whole year. But yeah, when it comes to the war, it looks like people are starting to buy crypto again, and they're starting to probably think, I want to move my money out of fiat because I think fiat's going to get hit harder by the war, potentially. Just thinking about what the USD will do when it's being used to fund, two sides of a war. But anyway, what do you man reckon?
Yeah, you know what? I think that one aspect that we didn't really touch on last week and that I've been seeing a lot more and more, and it obviously makes a lot more sense, is the effects on oil prices. So because of the Strait of Hormuz, which is between Iran and I think Yemen, and Iran mostly controls that, and that's where all the oil tankers go, and I think 20 to 25% of the world's oil actually flow through there, whether it's from Saudi or from whichever region in the Gulf. That can have a major effect on a lot of different things, because think about it. If oil tankers can't get oil to their destination, countries have to use their reserve oil, which means that prices of things go up. And I'm not just talking about petrol. Flights go up, bread, eggs. You remember when eggs were like stupid amounts of money for let's like a dozen of eggs?
Eggs are still stupid amount of money. It never went back down, bro.
But I mean, I remember when the initial thing happened, it was like a shock to the system. So expect more of that. If things continue the way they are or if they escalate. So yeah, all of these things combined is not a good thing for risk on assets, because when people can't afford to do the basics, then what are they going to do? They're going to cash in on their speculative investments, things that they may not see as something long term, and they need to feed their families. They need to do a lot of things. And that might not be the case for obviously institution, but there's still obviously a lot of retail when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto in general. So yeah, it's definitely something that they need to be aware of. And I think all of those signs point to, in the short to medium term, things potentially going downwards. I mean, in the long term, as we are in sort of this bearish market, I think that's going to happen anyway. But yeah, that was just something else that made me think, yeah, this is something to keep an eye on, even though we actually went up to over 70K.
I mean, personally for me, and I've said it before, maybe sometimes we think common sense is common, but it's not, because everybody knows is like, war's not good for business. Like, it's terrible. But with all that said, we still have gold making the all-time high. You know what I mean? Cool. British metals starting to make a little comeback. Stocks are doing okay. Even crypto had a little pop. But I'm telling you, this pop, it's probably gonna enter another sell-off, in my opinion. I mean, I saw a stat recently. I think when it comes to obviously doing this high geopolitical tension that's heightened and everything, with around Dubai and US and everything, people not really is exactly flooding to altcoins. I saw that 60%, was it? I don't know if you might have seen it. I think it was like, I think 70% of all altcoins are closer to their all-time high, the all-time low, than they are to all-time high. And the 30%, I would like to see what that 30% is actually. So I'll dig that up again and show you, man. But personally, for me, I think we can see where investors' money is going into, and it's going towards more precious metal. But I think this pump we had, I think it's over. I think right now, the play now is probably short, in my opinion, not a long, because they give me a narrative to be excited about why bears are in trouble here. I think bears are still firmly in control, in my opinion. You know what I mean? And when it comes to whether this war lasts to June or April before the World Cup starts, I still feel like at the end of the day, the capital market, especially the crypto, the more higher risk assets, will probably suffer the brunt of the sell-off more than the like gold and stuff like that. So that's my opinion.
Why do you think people haven't been flocking to Bitcoin in the same way that they've been flocking to gold in like uncertain times?
Because during uncertain times, you need as much certainty as you can. You know what I mean? And you don't know whether the world will end in a decade or less than a decade. And if you were to bet on money on things that will probably do well, I'll put Bitcoin there too. But I think the old heads, the rich heads, don't probably see crypto as a safe haven 10 years down the line. But obviously, I disagree. I actually feel like the more time Bitcoin and cryptocurrency have, the more time it will become a more mature asset class. Right now, we're still on a riskier, like if you see there's a risk curve, we're on the top end of that risk curve. And BTC is obviously a bit lower, but at the same time, I feel like it's just a situation where like in uncertain times, we like to invest in certain things. Not necessarily property, but I think gold is probably where most of the people are going into. And eventually there will be some diversification and we will see crypto eventually start pulling off again. I think we saw a little bit of that, and we're rallying from that 63K, 64K range. Yeah, so uncertain time, we want to invest in certain things. That's why people kind of flock to gold and not flock to BTC or GEM or cryptocurrency. So that's what I think.
Do you ever think that perception can change, or do you think that's just cemented now for crypto?
I honestly think that I think it can change. Like I said to you, like, I feel like we need more time, and I think the reason why I'm always pro the 4-year cycles. I feel like in each cycle we get more and more mature, and then we get new innovation. I think this cycle we brought about. I mean, I don't want to say meme curves, but I think one of the best thing that I'm taking from this cycle is the prediction markets. You know what I mean? I feel like the next cycle it could be quantum resistant chains. You know what I mean? And then the next cycle will be something else. So I feel like we need that time to keep developing and getting better, in my opinion. So we'll see how we're going. I mean, I'm not sure, but yeah.
The question is why people aren't flocking to gold the same way how they're flocking. Why they're not flocking to Bitcoin the same way they're flocking to gold.
Yeah, and also like, will there ever be a time where people flock to Bitcoin in the same way that they flock to gold right now?
Okay, so I'll answer the first one first. So people are flocking to Bitcoin the same way they're flocking to gold. Probably because the people that would flock to Bitcoin, your younger generation, they don't have funds to flock to Bitcoin right now. Potentially. I'm saying interest rates are high, inflation is quite high. If people are going to invest right now in the market where things look overly risky, they probably wouldn't go to somewhere like crypto. I think the reason why we're seeing gold pump is because you have your boomers and your early millennials, which are like, listen, I've seen this play out so many times, and when gold goes high, like when gold is going. So I'm going to get in on this gold right now. And I think millennials and Gen Z, they just don't have the outlook on the market in that depth, because are we talking about your regular investors? We're not talking about people like us who look at charts and go back historically. We're talking about people that are like, I just got a 5K bonus. Where am I going to put it? I can't imagine Tom from finance would be like, yeah, I'm going to go buy a gold bar. I reckon he's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to either buy some stocks or I'm going to slap it all in some crypto. But I reckon, yeah, stocks look like a safer bet. Also, I mean, generally, because the market's in a downtrend and because we started the year and went up to like 120, I think people look at it now and they're like, yeah, crypto's done. I don't know where the bottom is, and I don't want to get in now where it still has room to go down because I can't see the upside. So I reckon this is a mix of those things. Well, we are where we are.
Gold is proven, and obviously now I feel like if they're gonna look at anything in a crypto asset base, they're gonna look at BTC, only BTC. Like even Ethereum barely qualifies in that to be in that room, barely qualifies. But we'll toss in Ethereum in there, we'll toss Solana in there as well. And I know people will say XRP, but I'm never going to go there. So I leave that there. In my opinion, because I think XRP is an altcoin, honestly. You know what I mean? It will never become a store of value. I think Ethereum is slowly becoming that. Solana is still a little bit so volatile. So if with in all fairness, I wouldn't even put Solana in there. So I won't put a Solana. I'll put just Bitcoin and Ethereum. The only thing I think investors will probably flock to. But again, they're not, because gold is proven. And gold is also backed institutionally and is also backed by central banks. Not that BTC is not backed. You can always find someone that will buy BTC off you. This liquidity, there will never be a lack of liquidity based on my opinion. So I feel like the fact that, because hedging and putting some money in BTC will always have its benefit. Like, you can move money instantaneous. You can move $1 trillion without ever need. Imagine taking a truckload of gold versus a truckload of Bitcoin. You could just store it on the USB. It's glitchy, that's it. So there is some significant differences, but because gold is proven, and times when there is war, you go with the proven commodity, and that is gold. So I'm not surprised.
Something else that you might not be surprised about is the different allocations that you can have and the different allocation models. So we're going to each give you an allocation model that you could potentially use in your own investing. So what do I mean by that? I mean, say you have $5,000, $10,000. How are you going to divide that between Bitcoin, crypto, meme coins? Well, you're going to find out each of our different strategies. So let's say one of the viewers has 10K. How are you going to divide that? And I'll start with you, Deji.
Okay, 10K. I think, and what the conditions are? Is the market condition what we have now, or like just give me a?
Yeah, let's say no. Let's say no.
Honestly, I'll slap it on a BTC. Honestly, I wouldn't. Yeah.
All right.
Nah. You know what it is?
Let me change it slightly. Let's say we're in a bull market, or we're looking very bullish.
Okay. All right, cool. So if we're feeling very bullish, I'll keep 50% of BTC. I'll pull 25% of that $10,000 into Ethereum, and I'll pull 1K into Stellar Lumens, 1K into Monero, and I'll use the rest on Monero, because I think those Stellar Lumens, Monero, Ethereum, I don't think I will ever have a low day. Like, there will always be, my portfolio will always be up, in my opinion. And then, matter of fact, think about it now. That's what I'm going to do this next cycle. It's going to bad us up. See, Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe Stellar Lumen is give and take, and obviously Monero, because we know Monero stay pumping when it comes to bull market and bear market, because whales have to move, especially the people that are obviously hackers, have to move secretly, and how they wash it is by obviously transacting Monero. So that always has a upside. So yeah, that's how I'll distribute 10K.
What about you, Rick?
10 grand. You know what? I reckon I'll probably do 70% Bitcoin, because we all know how that works, and I'm not about to not jump into some BCC. And yeah, I'd say 20% in something like Hyperliquid, because I can't see them ever going away from this point onwards. Actually, I like that, you know. No, wait. I'll still go Hyperliquid. 50% Bitcoin. I'm going to do 15% Hyperliquid. I'm going to do 15% Binance, because
Binance?
All-time highs this year. No. Yeah, all-time highs last year. Come on. They've been all-time high in the whole time. I respect Binance. 1, 2, 3. And then
You got 20% left.
I got 20%. I want to say I'll slap it all on Monero. Yeah, where the prices. I reckon where the prices for Monero.
The complete portfolio.
Yeah, and based on the fact that, you know, scammers are scamming and they need Monero to exit their scams, I reckon Monero for the win.
Okay, cool. Like a lot.
Quick question, Harris. Did you have Ethereum in that portfolio, Rick?
Hell no. I'm done with you.
Yes. No. You know, yeah, the only reason why I'm still interested in Ethereum is only because of one man. His name is Vitalik. If he ever leaves and starts their project, oh my, or like just remember just think about the bloodbath, the hard forks, the soft forks that will happen because of that little decision right there. So listen, he's the MVP. They better treat him right. They better.
Yeah, I mean, those are two very interesting portfolio allocations. For me, I'll I'll start somewhere similar. I'll say about 50% Bitcoin, because I think once you have a stable base in Bitcoin, everything else you can have a bit more flexibility around. So I'll have 50% in Bitcoin. I'll do 20% in whatever the new narrative is. So let's say there's a new AI narrative, or it's a new RWA, or whatever it is. It's obviously, I can't predict the future, but there will be a new narrative in a bull market. And wherever that is, I'll allocate 20%. So that's 70% gone. And I think the last 30% I would allocate to some strong alts. So I may go in 3 different alts. Let's say Hype, BNB, and let me see what the last one is going to be. Oh, Solana. Yeah.
You lost your mind.
Solana. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. Because for me, I think if you get a good entry in Solana, there's a lot of upside. Obviously,
Wait,
there's risk.
before you
Go on.
go on, Harris here. I feel like all of our allocation, everyone, including Ricardo's and mine and yours, everything's pertinent on our entry. Like, it doesn't make sense buying Monero at 400 when
Of course.
You know what I mean? So every single one of selection, even BTC, Monero, Hype, everything's pertinent on the good entry. Because I think an entire crypto space, honestly, like, I mean, that's how you get washed out during leverage. You know what I mean? The late longs get punished. So even if you're just investing in spot, still don't want to be invested too late. So yeah.
Yeah, of course, I agree. The reason why I mentioned that on Solana specifically is because it may not like go above its all-time high. So that's not necessarily true of, BNB and Bitcoin, etc., etc. So that's why I had to mention that as a caveat. But the reason it's just the truth. I think the reason why I decided to include Solana, where others may not see the opportunities, because there's a lot of activity. Like at Olympit, there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of devs there. It makes sense if you can get the entry right. Will it reach new all-time highs in future markets? To be honest, I don't necessarily think so. And one thing I don't like as well is it's very volatile, and almost all alts are volatile. But if you look at the types of swings that we see in Solana, like right now, I think it's at $80-something, which is quite bad. So that's the only thing. But yeah, I think overall, I'll be happy with that type of portfolio. And yeah, let us know down in the comments what you would allocate if you had 10K to dish around in the crypto market. But with that being said, we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.